Thank you, Brett. So we are live. As soon as Mr. Mastriani sits down, we'll start our meeting. Perfect. Okay, so why don't we start our meeting? Start with a roll call. I'm Bob Carlson, the first selectman. Also with me is Selectman Brett Mastriani and Selectwoman Nicole Porter. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. We all set? Okay. In our packet, we have minutes, and Jen added a separate set of minutes. So I'm going to motion that when we do minutes, we add the set of minutes from January 3rd to tonight's meeting for approval.
A second.
Okay. Would someone like to do the minutes?
Did you want to do public comments on non-agenda items first?
Oh, is there any public comment on agenda items, non-agenda items, excuse me? Seeing none online, nothing in the audience. Okay. Back to the minutes.
So I'll make a motion to approve the Town of North Stonington's Board of Selectmen meeting minutes held on January 9th, 2024 at 6:30 PM here at the Education Center and via Zoom as written.
Second.
Okay, minutes have been motioned by Nicole, seconded by Brett. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, second set we added.
Yep, and then I'll make a motion to approve the Town of North Stonington's Board of Selectmen special meeting held on January 3rd at 2024 at 6 PM at the North Stonington Education Center only as written.
Second.
Okay, again, motion by Nicole and second by Brett. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Are there any comments by either selectman? Okay, none. No comments by the first selectman this evening either. We'll be all back here again tomorrow for the Board of Finance meeting. First thing on the agenda, Wheeler Library Building Renovation Review. I was visited by John Edwards from the library, asked me if we were going to vote on this evening. I told him what I was waiting for is to get information back from the town treasurer. We're working on getting information from lending institutions on what a 10-year bond would cost the town. I thought it would be best to go to the Board of Finance with more information in case we're asked the question. So I should get that back shortly. Our next meeting is February 6th. So I told John we would discuss and vote on February 6th. And since Board of Finance meets on the 7th, we'd probably have no time to do that. But we go to the Board of Finance on February 21st. And it gives us plenty of time. He says if there is a referendum, it wouldn't happen until May anyway. So he was fine with that. So we won't be voting on that tonight, or we can discuss, but really there's not much to discuss until we get together on the 6th, and I'll have those lending numbers by then. I mean, feel free if you want to say something about it. No, good. Okay. 20-year capital plan. So the Board of Finance asked me for this, and pretty much doing it solo. I had no idea how long it was going to take me. It's pretty much taken me over the last week and a half, nonstop working on this and trying to make all 3 pages agree. And then I had to do it twice. One, if we did bonding for the highway, for the fire company, and I did it with no bonding. So what I am giving you this evening, oh, by the way, I'm going to give you my synopsis about this too. And I want to go through this with you, but I didn't get the clarity I wanted to get when I did it, going through and I'm glad the Board of Finance asked me for it because it made me go through the steps and look at possible financing. And I always took worst case scenario. I used 5% financing, hoping that it's not that. Maybe the inflation will come down, but 5% on 2.7 million dollars, which is the biggest of the three bonds, because that's the two most expensive trucks. We're looking at $650,000 worth of interest over 10 years. If that just gets cut to 2.5%, we just saved half of that, saved over $300,000 of interest. But because of that, it caused my numbers to be higher. Instead of being in the 600,000 plus range, they're in the 800,000 plus range. The only thing you didn't get was a lot of peaks and valleys. You didn't go from 400 to 1,200,000 back to 600, 1,300,000, down to 400 again. You didn't get that. So I'd like to look at, first of all, if we could. Oh, and by the way, the with bond, you'll see there's a 5-year plan. I give it back to you, and it's exactly the way we voted on it. The only difference is there was a few things that happened in years 2, 3, 4, and 5 that I made changes to those years because we didn't really vote on those. We voted on this year, but there was things in the 20-year plan that skewed that. So I did make those changes, but you'll see on year 1 of the 5-year plan, it's 638,436, which I think is the number we agreed to. You can double check me on that. We agreed to that evening that I presented the Board of Finance. I think Gary Anito even said he was online that night that was the number he thought he could even live with. But that's that's on the 5-year plan without any bonding.
Oh, without,
It's what we
okay.
agreed to. Is that the correct number? Do you remember? Was it
I remember 643.
I got 638,436.
Okay.
And on that,
How come on the non-bonding, it goes down?
because, on the
On,
bonding, you rather?
with bonding on 2025, what are we bonding?
So what happens is we're taking some things out for the fire company that we're gonna do on bonding it right now on the old plan that here. So we removed those because now those things wouldn't happen that way. They'd happen under a bond. And 50,000 of that was from this year's budget. So we could take that $50,000 out. I wouldn't advise it at this point. But if push came to shove, we could take the $50,000 that we're putting towards the refurb on the R1 rescue truck if we're gonna bond anyway next year. But what if we don't bond next year? And now we took that 50,000 out, now we have to make it up. Basically, what the fire company is looking for is $300,000 over the next 3 years. We put 75,000 away. We have 50,000 this year, 100,000 next year, and 75,000 the year after. And by doing that, they have $300,000 in the bank, and the refurb on that truck is about $300,000. That's how they're gonna pay for it, which would give that truck some additional life. If we're gonna buy a truck with a bond, we don't have to do the refurb. So that 50,000 would come out, but not knowing the answer to that. So my suggestion, and again, we'll go through this, is if we can get the Board of Finance to agree to live with that number, the 638, to get through this budget season, I'm suggesting that we put together a small subcommittee called a capital tax committee or something to that nature, and maybe have representation of all 3 boards, not just the chair, but it could be 2 from each board, or however we wanted to do it. After budget season, really talk about, because the Board of Ed doesn't have anything in capital this year either, and I don't think they're putting anything in. It gives us a year off to say, okay, what is school capital? What is town capital? Which we were going to talk about, the selectmen, the chairman. But if we can make this committee up, they can say, what is school capital versus what is town capital? How does bonding work? Should we bond? Should we save? Should we finance? And when does it make sense? And how long should we bond for? I think those are good questions, and a good working group could work on that without the entire tri-board being involved, and then come back to the tri-board. But it might be something off budget season, maybe once a month, meet for an hour or 2 and say, let's hammer this thing out and see, then come back next budget season and say, even before next budget season, say, this is what our findings are. Maybe come back in the September tri-board meeting and say, this is what we found. And maybe we'd take 3 meetings by a smaller group to come up with that. But because again, you'll see with doing it this way, it's not getting the answer you wanted to get, what I wanted to get, and it could be because interest rates are so high. But then also, did we factor in enough money for what a vehicle will cost me 15 years from now versus what it costs me today? And I was using a lot of the information I was getting from, we did have quotes on all the trucks from the highway garage. I'm very comfortable, by the way, when I did this, with the highway garage, when we did the financing for 3 or 4 years on a vehicle, any vehicle over $100,000, we financed it. And we saved on inflation, we saved on expenses to, when we're fixing it, when it's broken, and we saved, we actually earn money when we sell the old truck 3 years sooner than selling it later. And we get the truck right away. As Lou said on the Board of Finance, it's tough to sometimes charge taxes to an individual, a taxpayer, and you don't have the truck. You know, you're gonna get it, if you get it now versus getting it 3 years from now, but you ask them for $50,000 for 3 years in a row to get a truck 3 years from now, and then find out the last payment is no longer $50,000. So anyway, I'm getting a little long-winded with this, but I just wanted to let you know that this, these are some of the things I found. And again, if you look at the one that says, we're the one out bonding, the smaller one, that's the fire company. If you look at the bigger page with more numbers on it, that's the highway garage at the top. And listen, if we can just look at that for 1 minute, because the bonding really didn't affect the highway garage at all.
Are you on with bonding or without bonding?
In this particular case, it doesn't matter because bonding doesn't affect the highway
Gotcha.
bond. So if you look at that highway garage, it's the bigger sheet with the yellow and the greens and the browns. Highway total, you'll see down, it's on line 42. And then total highway capital, which is on line 55. So that's the transfer station, and it's all the trucks. And if you look at the lines above, when the truck in the green line got paid for, a second truck with a green line started. And I did the same thing with the brown lines and with the yellow lines. So we knew that that's when a truck would start. All the pickup trucks, which are all under $100,000, they're put in here in different places. But in some cases, if it's expensive, like the F-250, F-350, we did those over 3 years at $35,000 a piece, roughly, for the 3 years. Some of the small trucks we did over 2 years, but the big trucks, they were mostly 4 years. And by doing this, at the end of the 12th year, 2035, 2036, we have all new vehicles. And if you notice after that, I have no trucks being bought because if there's a truck's 12 years old, which is actually a young truck in this business, 20 years old, you're getting old. But 12 years, we might be able to have a moratorium for 2, 3, 4, 5 years and not buy a truck unless there's one that's really in bad shape, which then is going to be able to bring this whole sheet down. But the financing on these trucks made sense and it worked to me. And if you look at the bottom line 55, like I said, if you look at those totals, they're pretty much a straight line. I mean, they go 300, 305, 320, 294, 298, 331, 366, 361, 326. So it pretty much stayed steady, which is what we wanted. We wanted to have something that says, let's be in the same ballpark every year and still be able to upgrade our trucks rather than have to, also now we need to spend $600,000 that year because we need 3 trucks and we need them right away. So using this process, and by the way, the trucks, the way I have them lined up is the way Alan told me to, which is the oldest trucks, which comes first, which we need more. So if we wait to year 4 to buy a truck, it's because we could wait to year 4. Wait to year 8 to buy a truck, it's because we could wait to year 8, if you understand what I'm saying. So that's the method I use for the highway department, and I'd be glad to talk about that if you want to talk about that.
I have a question, and I know Alan's on. So I know I mentioned to Alan in the past about a mini excavator and why we don't ever put in for one, because they're so versatile in what they're used for. And I know we lease them quite often. And he mentioned in the past that he was looking into that in the future, but I don't see that in here. Is that something that we are giving up hope on, or realize the leasing makes sense or renting makes sense when we need it?
Well, I hate to answer. I mean, you have a list on the left of all those, and I don't know if one of those is what you're asking for, probably not.
No, I don't see.
But I think that in this case, maybe it's best to ask Alan if he's on, because I think that we said that, just, we need to put this together. And I don't think he wanted to add or subtract anything at this point, just put together what we use. But because it's a working document, it's 20 years long, and actually this one's 21 years long. There's no reason why you couldn't add down the road and say in year 5 or.
Yeah, I just didn't know how many years out that would be. Alan, if you're listening and you can talk, can you raise your hand and then, or unmute if you can? I'm not sure if it'll let you, or I have to.
Are you there?
Yep, there you are.
So I didn't put it in there, only because I want to see how the transfer station goes with the excavator there. And that would be if we ever got rid of that one, then we could work forward to maybe getting a mini that we use more instead of renting it. Going back to what Gary says, get rid of something and get something rather than adding to the fleet. That was a plan if everything works out the way we're hoping with the transfer station in June and July after we get it all set up.
Okay, and then regarding another question, regarding the mowers, how many active mowers do we need at a time? Because I do see down the road we're replacing some Skags again. And I know we just did some, but I just want to know how many active mowers do we actually need to be?
So sometimes I'll send 2 guys, like if we get backed up, say in the summertime with the rain and stuff like that, I'll send 3 guys mowing. We have 4 and then the big one. I know that we use the big one. We have used the big one at the rec and at the fairgrounds because the fields are so big. Wayne had actually taken the new one with the 6-foot deck. He's like, that thing moves faster than the other one. So I don't know if we would ever replace the big one, the Batwing one. And I think that another 6-footer would make up for that, and we wouldn't add any more. We would just keep the 4 we have and just mow. Because sometimes during the summer, like in June, July, when the fair's coming up, or just after, Wayne will have one, and then I'll send 2 or 3 guys mowing, and then we're out of mowers, which is fine because then I can send guys to go weed whack behind the mowers to catch up or get what we got to get done. So right now we have 4 0 turns and then the Batwing. I don't see why we would need to replace the Batwing. We'll pretty much keep that until it's done, pretty much.
All right. Thanks, Alan.
Yep.
Any other questions? If you guys could go to the 5-year sheet and turn the page to the back page, I wanted to show you something on there.
Which 5-year are they?
It's the blue ones, the
No,
short, the
but
8
I
by
mean
11.
with the bonding.
Oh, using both, second
Oh,
page on both.
Okay.
So, with and without, so I have the without on the left, the with on the right, so. The one on the left is basically the one we approved at our meeting, at least the first year, the 24-25 budget season of 638,436. Hopefully that's the right number. And then you can see it went 638,998, call it $1 million, 993, call it $1 million, 1,386, and 879. I expected on the other page when we did bonding, it would change a lot. But you can see it took down the first year by 50,000 only because we didn't have to put money aside for the refurb. We're going to use it as far as bonding, which I don't recommend taking that 50,000 unless we're pushed into it because we may not go to bonding. But then it went from 998 only to 935, 993 only to 955. Year 4 made a big difference. 1,386 down to 923, but it even went up in year 5, went from 879 to 917. So I wasn't getting the results I had hoped to get. And I think it's because the interest rate's so high. I mean, if you talk about the yearly payment going from 65,000 in interest down to say 32,000, we save 32,000 right there, which would help. Because if the interest rate went from 5 to 2.5%, in an overall 10 years, instead of paying 650,000, we pay 325,000. I mean, that's a big nut over 10 years, but we don't know what the interest rates are going to do. So I kept the higher ones in here just to make sure that, so these numbers then, some of these that in the low 9s would drop down to the high 8s and maybe it would look a little bit better, but it's not the 500,000 or 600,000 we're used to. I mean, in the past we've done 300,000 and 400,000, but it's not the number that I think the Board of Finance was looking for, but it would give us the stability. I mean, like I said on the highway garage, knowing that every truck is 12 years old or younger before you have to buy another truck, and then you say, we don't need to buy a truck. All the trucks are 12 years or younger. We could take 2, 3, 4 years off without buying a truck. It's different with the fire company. There's 3 bondings, each one's 10 years. That means that every truck is 30 years old or less, and they're good with that. Their trucks don't get the same wear and tear as a plow truck does. It's a different wear and tear, but they have to constantly upgrade, things on the truck. But with that said, they know that in 30 years, all their trucks have been replaced, and we're buying 2 trucks at the time, if that is what makes sense. But unfortunately, the 2 trucks they need first would be if we got the ladder truck and in 5 years we agree to have them buy another ladder truck. That truck and the RV are the 2 most expensive trucks they own. So right off the bat, we're doing a bond for 2.7 million plus interest. The second 2 trucks, the bond's only 2 million, and the third 2 trucks, the bond's only 1.5 million. But unfortunately, that with the age of the trucks, that's how they line up. So we catch a break in the second half of the 20-year plan because now we're buying less expensive trucks. We hope they're less expensive.
So Bob, as I looked at the 5-year plan that we approved at the last time we discussed, and I had for 25, 26, a total of 738, 435, 85. And then we jumped up to 1.6, and I know those later years weren't completely accurate.
I know I took the school stuff out because until we get the definition of what school capital.
Right, yeah, there was nothing in for the
But
school.
what did
on
we,
that
what
one.
went back in, I think, in 25, 26, you said, Brett?
Yeah, I think the rescue truck refurb. let me
We
look
dropped
at-
that to 25. That was in 24, 25. It's not in 25, 26.
Yeah, so I had 25, 26 originally was.
Could you read the
A
lines
hun-
down? Have you got it in front
100,000.
of you? Can you read the lines down from the top, like 61, 688 for the loader? Is that what you have?
Yeah, 61. Yeah, I'll see where we're,
Yeah, so just,
Different.
can you go down and tell me where the difference is?
okay, the 61, 83, 81, 50. Okay, so you took out the $15,000 SCAG, it looks like.
Oh, yeah, we moved it. We
Alright.
moved it to, another spot
So
later
that
on.
changed it, but we must have increased somewhere. 10, 15. You increase oh no, you decrease
Decrease those from
generator
10 to
up.
5.
yeah.
That was at, I talked to Alan, and he thought he had way too much in there for the generator
Okay.
upgrade, so we decreased that by
You
5,000.
so we had 10,000, no, we had 15,000
In the
there.
first section, was it 275, 966 for the total of your first section?
No, because of the SCAG, it was
Okay.
290, 965.
Okay, and
The
the
next
second was
one
35,000, now it's 30,000?
It was 35 and we're down to 30.
Okay,
And then the next one, the farmhouse repairs, you went down to
oh, I know what it was.
30 from 50. It looks like,
Was it on the Quint?
let's see, 20,
It's on the $300,000 I
34.
put in with the Quint.
69. Rescue truck refurb, let's see.
That was 100.
Yeah, we had 100 and you took that out. So I'm,
No,
that's
no, I
the
left it
bond.
on there, right? 100's still on there. Am I looking at the right one? Yeah, without bonding. yeah.
Without bonding.
It's gotta be, I put in the 300. Chief had 930.
Oh, the Quint, the 300.
Because Chief had on line 3, $999 for the Quint. Can you see that? On the third column or the fourth column?
So I see that in yours, it's 300,000 instead of 100,000. Wait, sorry.
No, it's
I'm
300,000.
looking at my phone, so it's a little different here. Okay, so the Quint, you put in 300,000.
300,000.
So we didn't have that on what we approved.
No, so what we have is the Quint was on, it should be on your line, third column or fourth column. He had it on there for 999,000.
Correct.
Right, so in talking to the chief, we realized that that was actually a $1.2 million truck, not a $1 million truck.
Yeah.
And because when Michael Anderson was talking about it, and it takes 4 years to get it, he said, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we could save for that one because we can't get it for 4 years anyway. Why don't we put $300,000 away for 4 consecutive years, and then when the queen comes in 4 years, we pay for it, and we have the money. So using that advice, I took the 999 out, which should have been 1 million too, and I put the 300,000 in the next 4 years, knowing that the quint would come in the 28, 29 year. It didn't affect the very first year, which is what we agreed to, which is the 638. So that's why I made that change. Basically, money's moved around, but it really hasn't.
So we'd have to re-vote on our 5-year and then 20-year based on this.
But let me ask you a question. Did we vote on a 5-year, or did we vote on
We voted.
giving them, I know we voted on this packet,
No, I thought we just voted on
so did I.
5.
24.
No, because why would we vote on 999,000?
Let's look at the minutes.
Yeah.
So that was, what was the date on that?
Because at that meeting, we knew we hadn't even looked at the full 5-year plan and that we were going to make amendments.
And I wouldn't have voted yes on a $999,000
Yeah.
quint that we wouldn't even agree that we were gonna buy it. The town hadn't agreed to, and they still haven't actually, but the Board of Finance hadn't even looked at it yet. So I think we agreed to the first year, and we used the 5-year plan as a guide.
Okay. 5-year capital plan, discussion about financing vehicles, possible bonding, motion to send the 5-year plan to the Board of Finance in the amount of 638. Right, so we said we're sending
The 5-year plan,
5-year
but the
plan.
638 is what we voted on,
For
which
the
was the
first-
main.
for
So
this
that
year.
number is correct then. 638.
The number, yes, 638 is.
638, 436.
We
So
didn't
that
make-
is correct. We sent the 5-year
Yeah,
plan.
plan, but we voted on that first
Right.
year. Because I'll be honest with you, that 999, don't think I would have voted for that, not knowing, we hadn't even told the Board of Finance, about, had them talk about it yet. But because I knew the next 4 years was something I could move money around, and I knew, and trying to be as honest as possible, if it's a 1.2 million truck, I didn't want to leave a 999 in there when it's 1.2 million, and misrepresent it. And because it's not coming in for 4 years, why not put the 300,000 away for 4? So that's why that second year went up.
So we look at with the bonding,
You want to look at the firehouse one with the bonding, because that's the
that's
one.
what I'm looking at. So that's why I'm wondering why do we put 337 in? Why is it with bonding and without bonding the same? Oh, it's actually $37,000 difference. $37,000 more with the bonding?
Yeah, I'll tell you why, because it's it's 2.7 million and it's $650,000 total interest. It's 65,000 a year. You had 65,000 to 270 come to 335 or whatever the number is. You understand what I'm saying? So 270 for 10, it's 270,000 a year for
Right.
10 years, but when you add the interest, now we could have done, unfortunately, the interest is 65,000 a year. So the first 5 years, until you get to year 5, you're paying more interest. But then at the last year, you would only be paying, 6,500, but you're paying, instead of 65,000. So it spreads it out over 10 years.
No, I get it. And I guess a part of it is, so what was the Board of Finance's actual request? They want to look at our 20-year plan?
They don't wanna look at it. And I had heard through the grapevine that one member, not Carl, one member said, I don't even know where I asked for this, because it's just a numbers game and you're just
When you're that far
you're
out.
making numbers. But
Yeah, because I worry that we didn't ask, so we asked our boards and commissions for a capital plan or capital request for the next few years. We've never asked them for that far out. So I'm sure there's some commissions and committees that would have some requests.
I'm
And I know I
sure,
bring up rec because they're one of the ones that are facilities based. And they haven't put in anything for, Nicole and I, we've been at that rec facility and know that that building's in rough shape. And I know the fire department owns it, but we have to figure out something to make that more livable.
and it does come under town building maintenance. We do have things in the budget for that, and we do raise those occasionally, so, but not in capital. It's not in capital. Unless they decide they want to buy something in capital, but it,
So a complete renovation of that building would not be capital, that would be maintenance?
That's something you'd recommend on a building we don't own.
Well, I think needs to be some kind of upgrade
So we can
done.
do capital improvements with our capital building fund, our building maintenance fund. If we can look at, just do me one more favor, we can just look at only because I spent so much time on this stuff. If we could just look at
And I
the,
appreciate-
look at the fire company one. Oh, and try to make it color coded and the whole thing. So with and without bonding, okay? So the with bonding is the green, yellow, and brown, and the without bonding is the red, blue, yellow, green, brown, white. So if you look at the gray, the bottom line on each, right? And that's the key. So we have, starts out great, 172 with bonding, bonding's working. It's 222, 970 without, which is why we're doing it right now. Oh, we saved money. And then we saved a little bit money in the next year, went from 547 to 485. But as you go across, you'll see, we have some years that the fire company has 43,000 in there because they're not buying any trucks at those times. And I'm still carrying 450, 450, 380, 380, 380, 380. And they're carrying 43,000, 43,000, 43,000 until they put in 200,000 for SCBA packs in the 2032, 2033 year. But, so that's the low note. The high note is, if you look at, when you go across in the fourth column, 27, 28, it's 912. In 23, 24, it's 943. It's 1,073,000 and 20, and 34, 35, and so on. So we don't have those peak years because everything's kind of, I'm staying in between, we'll say 350 and roughly 450 across the board. They're going from, 400 up to 900 and 300 up to 1,000,000 and so on. And on those years, they only do 43,000. That's because they're not showing any truck purchases those years. But they're showing truck purchases all at one time. And you'll see that engine one, 900,000 and 33, 34. And rescue truck refurb. And well, that's the refurbs, the first 3 years in blue, but then they had
You
1,
can
2,
buy
3,
one.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Year 9, they're buying one.
How accurate is that if we refurb a truck, we only get 10 years after spending 200?
I'm not sure you'd have to talk to the chief. But I think the good thing is since we don't have to decide on a 20-year plan this year, and we did something with that little subcommittee, a capital subcommittee to put together and investigate this, it makes more sense. I think we can get those kind of answers, like how long do we get out of a refurb? How long, do we have to get the 2 most expensive trucks at the same time? Can we get more out of, the tanker truck's fairly new. I have that in the last line, year 21, a new tanker truck. I mean, we've had it only for 3 years so far, 4 years. We might not need one 21 years from now, but. So that's where we are. So the ladder truck, and you'll see that's, I have the 300,000 here too, Brett, 300,000, 4 years in a row, because it arrives in the 4th year. Yeah, engine, what do we have? The ladder truck and the rescue truck are together. They would be bonded together in my bonding. When you see the 2 long yellow lines at the top, the one with bonding. So we've got the 2 long yellow lines of the first truck, the 2 long green lines of the second 2 trucks, and they're just 2 short lines of brown because it's just starting the next 10 years.
But if we're bonding, gotta flip back to the bonding again.
Do we have any concern that the Board of Finance is going to look at our average capital spend each year for the last couple of years has been what? Has it been under 5? Do we have
I have
any
concerns.
concern
Well, I can-
that in looking at 6s and 7s and 8s and 9s?
So I think so here's the thing. As I said to Sarah the other night when we were talking about this, you can keep doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
And you don't get any farther. And that's the definition of insanity, right? Do the same thing over and over, not improve.
So I think that I would like to know from the Board of Finance, because this is a lot of work that you did, but if the expectation is that we're taking $300,000 out of the operational budget and because we're gonna have a larger spend in capital, like, I literally have no idea where that's gonna come from. Yeah. So if we are gonna agree that we're gonna up the mill rate and taxes, then this is definitely a plan, and I completely agree, we have to do something different. We can't wait until you can see the road in the front seat of a truck from, on the ground.
Well, it's also tough to say until we see what the grand list looks like too,
Yeah.
because we have grown in the last few years. We don't know what that number is yet.
Right, and that's why my discussion about that library issue comes into play, because if I look at this with the library and bonding, with just our capital, and say you add in the library over that 10 years, that's a mill increase roughly, just for those two things. I guess we'll have to, when Bob gets back, but I'm not sure. So with the bonding, why are we starting that 337 on that ladder truck in 25, 26?
That was
When-
the interest, right? That was the interest spread out.
Yeah, but if we don't actually bond now, right? We would bond for that ladder truck in 5 years, right? Because then we'd be ordering it, but we're not paying for it. So those first 4 payments of 337 don't really enter into with the bonding. Correct?
No, that's correct, because so it depends if you wanted to, I guess what Mike had mentioned is putting the money away and like, almost like we're doing now, saving it and be able to pay for the truck then, so it's paid for.
But then what's the point of bonding?
Well, then, no, bonding is on a different page. That would be,
No, I'm looking at with bonding under the ladder truck.
right,
so
so why
25,
are we starting it
26.
now, you mean?
Well, why would we start 25, 26 if we said 5
Yeah,
years?
you're right. It's, that could be actually pushed. That's a mistake on my end.
But then that brings our capital way down where,
Or we bring it down by 337,000 on those first 4 years, but then after that, we're just.
then we jump back up. So I wonder how we level that more. Is what? Or maybe we put,
No, that's a good point. I didn't even think about, I was just thinking the trucks we're gonna buy now, but you're right, that wouldn't be purchased until 4 years from now, so why bond it now when you could buy it?
right,
Bond it, and maybe the interest rate is even lower 4 years from now.
yeah, or do we put a little down, right, over the next few years and then we're bonding less?
Or could we put the least expensive, maybe the least expensive truck that he has on here and use that, let me see what truck that is.
And we never get a break on the rescue gear.
On engine 4, he's got it down at $500,000. If we could take the $500,000 and put that as 4-year lease, not lease, 4 years, and on those first 4 years, we're not doing the ladder truck. We're just doing the refurb. So we can either just do the refurb by itself and push the ladder back, or you could maybe move that 500,000 in there over 4 years and do finance it. You know, then you have to worry about it later on in the process.
Can we do a combination of saving and bonding? Does it have to be all or nothing?
No, it's just, I think, so here's the thing, the direction that the Board of Finance gave us was, we wanted to look at it because we think we're doing something, we need to do something differently. And that's what we're trying to come up with, something totally different, something out of the box, which is where this bonding comes from, to the financing, and coming up with a plan that you can live with. So when Chief's always all talking about his 20-year plan, and we never stick with it. So if we had a plan both in the highway garage and the fire company, which makes the lion's share of our capital every year, the other stuff is just kind of fill in stuff. At least the town would know where we sat on this stuff. But if we don't come up with another way to do it, and to me, there's bonding, there's financing, there's savings, and there's do nothing. That's all. And that's, unfortunately, we've done them before a lot. That's when we just didn't buy anything and just let it sit and put more money into the maintenance side of it.
So Bob, with the bonding, I'd like to put in that little asterisk next to it as I look at, it. What trucks are we actually looking to bond?
I was bonding, see the 6 trucks listed? It's engine 1, not engine 2, because they're getting rid of engine 2. So it's the ones in the colors. Engine 1, engine 3 is a tanker. Engine 4, ladder truck, forestry truck, and refurb on the rescue truck.
And so are we looking to do that all at the exact same time?
No, they're so,
So we're gonna have multiple bonds.
no, 10-year bonds, 6 trucks, 3 10-year bonds, each starting when the first bond ended. The second one starts. So you bond at year 1, year 11, year 21. Never more than 2 trucks. But,
He color coded them.
I mean,
Right?
yeah, I tried. So when
So
you,
the yellows are being bonded together.
yeah, and even though you just said it, made a good point, push that top yellow with a ladder, push that out 4 years and start it then. But then you would also push one of the green lines out 4 years, which is fine.
Can I just to clarify, when we keep talking about the ladder truck, that's going to be the replacement for the Quint,
That's
the
correct.
used Quint?
That's
Okay.
correct.
All right, I'm getting a little tiny bit
Yeah,
confused.
nothing to do
It's
with the
not an
Quint.
additional
No,
truck.
if the town agrees to, at the town meeting, if they agree to allow the fire company to get the ladder truck.
Yeah.
So does it really make sense if we're doing this bonding in this program? Does it make sense to refurb the rescue truck for
Or the rest,
200,000?
no, I got the rescue truck out of there if we're refurbing it. It's not in there anymore for a refurb. Where do you see it?
I don't, I'm just making sure.
Yeah, okay. No, so,
So
Like,
with the bonding,
so-
we would.
so every
forego
action,
the-
there was a reaction. So if I did one thing, I had to take something else out.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that I completely agree with you guys that the ladder truck can be pushed out. I think I'm hoping we can get a few more years than we originally think out of the used.
Well, he says that we can get 5 years out of the Quint.
Yeah,
We also know that it takes 4 years to get the new truck, but they also said we don't have to pay for the truck until it comes in, until it's ready. So the earliest we'd pay for that truck would be almost 5 years from now.
yeah.
So we can get rid of the first 4 years where I ran a bond, move this back 4 years. I'm probably not gonna do this tomorrow. I'm gonna present this as I have it tonight to the Board of Finance, but we can discuss this tomorrow. They just don't have time to.
But
redo
that
this.
domino effect does affect other things,
Oh, it
right?
does. It affects, but it
Because
doesn't
it'll
affect.
affect the engine 1 that you have starting in 35, 36, right?
Right,
Because we
so
don't want
engine
Brian-
1 and engine 4, one's a 2010, one's a 2001. So I'm gonna say it's gonna affect engine 4. We'll push back engine 1, yes, we'll push back engine 1 because we can wait longer for it
Yeah,
and get engine 4 when we're supposed to, when the rescue refurb's paid off, we can start that bond. So, and that would bring, so the bonding instead of 2.7 would bring it down quite a bit. So we're losing, we'll say half of that 337 right off the bat. That'd be, probably be bonding maybe $1 million. You say $1.2 million for this, that million, $1.5 million would be bonding for the rescue truck. The $1.2 million was the ladder truck. So $1.5 million is a lot, big difference in 2.7 million. So we'd be cutting it almost in half, which would bring this down by roughly $160,000. So that the first line, 485, 470, would bring that down to closer to just over $300,000, which is, that makes sense. Don't get that. This is all the Board of Finance want to do is see this. They're not acting on this tomorrow. They're seeing it to give them an idea of what we're thinking. And this is going to start a conversation on what
So-
works and what doesn't.
I think that this is exactly what everybody has been talking about and wanting for the last year or two. I do think that anything 20 years out needs to be fluid. Like, I would never vote to put this in writing to say we can't change this, just not knowing what may pop up. And you're exactly right. We may all of a sudden need a particular piece of equipment that we've never had before. We've got to fit it in somewhere and we'll have to tweak the plan. But I think this is exactly what everybody's
I'd
been
say-
looking
Now,
at.
there's nothing from the ambulance.
Yeah, it is. It's in the highway garage one, because I was financing that. So if you look at Selectmen Capital. So where is that? So if you look at, let me see if I get a line item for you. Well, you know, it's in the, it's all right, so it's not called out in the big pages, but if you look in the blue pages, the blue and.
No, I think it's, look at line 58. Is that what
Yeah.
NSVFC
No,
capital?
that's the fire company. But if you
Oh,
look at
sorry,
this, look
sorry.
at this one, Nicole, the blue one,
Oh,
8x11 blue one. Look down halfway through the Selectmen Capital. It says NSA ambulance replacement.
yeah.
So that's $34,500, which is incorporated into the Selectmen's Capital on the big plan.
Okay.
The difference there is, if you notice on Selectmen's Capital on line 59, it starts out as 89.5, 89.5, and it's adding a bunch of stuff together. Then it jumps to 139.5, 139.5, 139.5. Well, why did it jump so much? Why did it jump 50,000? Because the first ambulance they want to buy is the van version, which is about 150,000. The second one they want to buy is a box one, which is like 250,000.
Yep.
So because of that difference, I had to put more money in the budget for that. So they get 5 years, 10 years out of every ambulance, and they're changing one over every 5 years. And we did it through financing.
All right.
So I would think we can try to give a good picture like this, but I would think the first 10 years are really the ones where we can would be the most accurate, right? After 10 years, we're kind of,
So after 10 years, I agree, this becomes a working document.
right. And I think we can't pretend that in the next 10 years, we're not gonna have anything in here for the school capital.
Exactly. And I think that's why it would be important to talk to the school and come up with a true definition of school capital versus town
Because that
capital.
might affect those numbers where we're not putting in that 337 for those first years of bonding. So it might average out if they're coming up with, if they have stuff that we don't have
Yeah.
on.
So,
And we're gonna let the task force decide
well, if
what,
the Board of Finance agrees and the Board of Selectmen, I mean, Board of Ed, Selectmen, and maybe we can talk about this at our next tri-board meeting in June, because the budget will just be getting over. And we say, well, can we form a capital task force for 3 months, June, July, August, September, whatever, and come and report back at the September tri-board meeting on what capital is, as far as,
so it's not our intent to try and figure that out before.
I don't think we need to, because the Board of Ed's not putting any capital in, and we have a
No, but
capital.
they've not submitted, but there's all of the questions of, should they be funding the HVAC repairs? Should they be, replacing leaks on the roof? Is that us or is that them? So even though they've not put any, other than God bless them, the van, the sports van, they've not put anything forward, but I don't think that there's good clarification.
So
yet.
I am meeting with Stephanie and Michael on the 23rd of this month, and we're gonna try to get, just for now, what constitutes town versus school. And we can discuss that now if you want. My feeling is if they need a new roof, it's town. If the roof's leaking, it's them, but I could be wrong.
Right, so, and I do think, and I mentioned it at the Board of Ed meeting as well, we need to get a handle on those warranties. Bill from the school's, business office said that the only thing with a 1 year over 1 year warranty is the roof. I went through the bidding information that we had, and that's not accurate from what I've seen. So if something changed after those bids, then there's an issue. They are working on getting the documents together of the warranty information for us to look at. But there's a lot of things that are 5-year, 10-year, lifetime warranty in those bid docs
So-
that have
so
to be,
wouldn't
even
the
by
vendor
state.
know that?
What's that?
Wouldn't the vendor know that?
So if you look at the bid documents, and I think part of it is because of transition, right? They are supposed to, the contractor was supposed to register all the warranties in the school's name, because some of that extends those warranties once that's done. So in that bid package, there was supposed to be the warranty, registration, and then they were supposed to go over all the warranties and that information with someone from the school. Unfortunately, just knowing what's happened in central office and changes and maintenance, those people are no longer here that did the closeout. But there is binders with all this warranty information on it. And and in the bid docs that are in the old town hall, vault, it goes through everything. I mean, it says the whiteboards with their porcelain covered whiteboards have a lifetime warranty to be able to erase and not erase and write on it. So there's all those things. I think the problem is going through those. But I don't know how we can come up with a capital plan for that kind of stuff, or the actual enclosure of that building without knowing that. So like if the roof is a 40-year warranty and the HVAC on top, what I saw in the bonding or in the bid program is that the compressor is a 5-year warranty. And this component's a 10-year warranty. So until we have a handle on any of that, it's going to be hard for us to come up with. Even if we said the outside package is the towns, the inside is the schools, without us knowing that and getting that information, it's almost impossible for us to say, hey, we need to put in for a new HVAC system 10 years from now.
So we do know that no matter what happens, that us three, Carl, and the other 5,200 people in town are paying for it, correct?
Correct.
Whether matter if it's school or town.
Right.
So we do know that. So it really is just a matter of, it's like when we do here, we charge the school rent for this building. But why do we do that? Because it's all coming out of the same pocket. We charge it so we can do it for accounting purposes. We know how much space they're using and what's costing them to use the space versus going out and renting space somewhere else. So it's a good accounting practice. It's the same thing with the capital. It's whether we pay it or they pay it, someone has to pay it and the taxpayer ends up paying it. So, but we just want to get it into the right column so we know where the
Yeah, I
responsibility.
mean, it needs to go in the right bucket. And in my mind, if they've been paying for things that we end up determining are going to be the town's responsibility, then that money has to be shifted to the selectmen's budget so that, I mean, in my mind, you can't keep it all, you can't keep this same pool of money in the Board of Ed, but then increase the selectmen's, building maintenance.
No, but let's say, use the number 50,000, let's say our budget goes up 50,000 because we go at 50,000 school capital line, a new line, school capital maintenance, right? We put that in there. The Board of Finance has to say that, well, yeah, they put in, so their budget's gonna go up by 50,000, and we can't tell them now cut something else because that 50,000 came out of the school. Make sure that you know that they decreased their budget by 50 if we had to increase ours by 50.
Yeah.
So I want to get credit for that, yeah, they can't take that extra 50,000 and spend it for something else. And I have to cut something because I'm paying 50,000 more.
Correct. Yes, that's what I'm.
So I just want to make sure they have that understanding that,
Yeah,
okay, Board of Ed, time's going to take it. You're not
Yeah.
replacing it.
yeah, okay. So I need to talk something through so that I understand everything in front of me. So we
That'll
need
make
to
one
wait.
of us.
We need to wait for some of the bonding estimates to come in, right? So that we know exactly,
No,
No?
not so. What I've done here, this is just a map. It's a kind of a map you can take to kind of see where 20 years will bring us. This is probably 70% accurate because I'm using fictitious numbers, high interest rates that who knows what the interest rate is going to be 5 or 10 years from now. So it's just trying to give us the best vision possible that if we use this system, combination of financing and bonding, very little saving, it's bonding, which we've done saving in the past. I think the only thing we're saving now is a couple of things we started already, like the transfer station, bulky waste pile and things like that. So it's mostly bonding and financing with a little bit of saving and then a little bit of do nothing combined.
so, but we have in front of us bonding, no bonding options.
Yes.
We have to agree and vote for one or the other? or-
That's not necessarily. I'm just trying to show you that if we bond it, which we haven't done a lot in the past, how it affects the other budget. And right now it affects it, it helps it, but to keep things more level, but it gets rid of the peaks and valleys, but it gives us a higher yearly number to hit. 800,000 is a big number to hit in capital every year. However, that's because the interest rate's so high. If the interest rate is half of that, now that number that we're living in the 800s would probably be down in the high 600s, much more palatable number.
Okay, so the only thing we have to vote on is the 24-25 capital that we're putting forward.
Which we did
Which
already.
we already did,
Right,
to the tune of 638.
right.
And
There's
change.
nothing here to vote on. It's just pretty much to give you the understanding what I was going to present to the Board of Finance tomorrow and see if you
Okay.
had, what input you had for me.
Okay. So I think we all agree that we're going to push out the Quint by a couple of years, right?
4 years. We
Yeah.
could do that.
So were there any other major suggestions to the 5 and the 20, other than moving the Quint out?
If I get a
4
chance to
years?
do that tomorrow, if I can move that out and then move one of the green lines, like the 2001 engine 4 out, start
Yep.
start the 2010 later rather.
Later.
I'll do that. It's just like Susan's out
Oh, yeah.
and
Because you talked about a timeline of getting the 5 and the 20 year to the Board of Finance on February 20.
tomorrow night.
What?
I'm giving this to them tomorrow night.
Oh, okay.
No,
Yeah.
the library is doing to them on the 21st of February.
That's what we were talking about. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
this is tomorrow. That's why I'm saying if I have
Okay.
time, I'll try to get it done.
Okay, and this is really just for review.
That's
This is
all
a
it is. It's
plan
just because they had
for
asked to
conduct.
see, well, what would a 20-year
Yep.
plan look like? Well, this is
Okay.
what a 20-year plan looks like if you bond and if you don't bond. And there's probably 10 you can do this all in just, no bonding, just do it with, take all
Savings.
those bonds and do them into, financing instead. But financing a truck for a $1.2 million truck, we saw what I mean, just financing the tanker truck, it was 60, almost 70,000 a year, and that was for 7 years. So, and that's a less expensive truck. So when you do something 1.2, 1.3 million, does it make sense to finance it? I mean, that's something that the Board of Finance can discuss, I guess. I'm just giving them some ammunition
Okay,
some food for thought.
Well, Bob, thanks for all your work on this.
yeah,
I
this
know you
is
put a lot-
amazing.
I do,
Um, It'll be interesting to see what they think of the numbers, the annual totals.
But if we can, the big thing is if they get them to agree on the 638 that we already gave them to review, the one we voted for, the first year of the 5-year plan, and that can go, if they approve that to go into capital for this year's budget, then we can start working on the budget, knowing that that's the capital. That'd be a good thing. We can get that out of them. It's okay, we're gonna put it to bed, 638, we'll live with that. And
Sorry,
if-
Brett. what
And
were
if
you
we
gonna
had
say?
to, we could take 50,000 out of that. If they think that bonding's a possibility for down the road, because it's 50, because that 50,000's in there would come out if there was bonding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, on this kind of stuff, since we're going over numbers and there's a lot of back and forth with it, can we get back to, putting this stuff online with our agendas? Like, so during COVID, you had to do that.
So I'll tell you why I didn't do this, because I finished at 5:05 tonight,
Yeah,
so I didn't have time to put it, but believe me, I had hoped I would have this done. I could email it to you. I'm gonna email it to the Board of Finance tomorrow morning early.
Yep.
Which isn't a lot of time, but I just finished this. I mean,
Yeah.
I finished it when I went to eat something, came back, so.
right, no, I get that, and I know that those.
But
things
I
come
agree
up.
with you, in the future, if I have something done, I'll be glad to forward it to you.
And then I do think putting online on our packet for residents to see would be helpful, that zoom in and watch. And the reason I started thinking more about this is it was nice during COVID where we could see what was being discussed and kind of follow along during the meetings. And when somebody asked a question about the planning and zoning, what was happening there, and I went online and found out that the text amendment wasn't even online for anyone to read, that makes it difficult for the people to follow along, and especially when it comes to budget stuff,
Mhm.
if people know the process and what we've gone through and they can see it, then I think it helps them vote more comfortably when it's all
Does
said
Jen
and done.
put the whole packet online now when she sends it to you guys? Does she put that online or just the agenda?
There was a few months or meetings that there was more information online.
And not that I'm against it, but are we required to because we're using hybrid meetings?
We were required during COVID, I'm not sure what that requirement is.
And again, I don't mind doing it if we can do it.
Right, if we have the information ready, it just might make sense.
And a lot of
for-
times we have packets ready by the Friday because she sends them to you guys, so I don't think it'd be a big thing to put them online at that point.
But, so we don't need to make a motion on this. Just, we're all pretty much in,
I think we
on the
just,
same
I think we're all pretty much in favor of saying that we need to do something. I guess one thing would be, if you feel like we should, if you think there's any merit to putting together some sort of a capital task force of, a couple of people from each of the boards and work on that, between now and next year, because it seems that there's a lot of opportunity to do things different ways and.
right, and I guess we should look at how that process works, because there are towns that they actually vote on their capital well before budget season, like they'll actually send it to the town in September or October, there's towns.
Oh, wow.
So that way the town votes on that capital, and during budget season, you can't touch it, right?
Yeah.
So,
So I'm gonna bring that up tomorrow, I'll see what the Board of Finance says, if they think it's a good idea or not.
yeah, because I do think the past capital group, people refer back to that, but those were just department heads really meeting on what their needs are, not anyone, not really any elected officials to work through that and say, hey, we vetted this stuff, where at least if we have some from each board going through it and trying to vet it as.
Yeah, I
some
am
of that stuff
definitely in
happens.
favor of a task force sooner rather than later.
Okay, and we can maybe do that. It's just, there's so many nights for meetings already during the
Yeah.
budget season. If whoever wants to be on it is willing to give another night up, I mean, we know that we have multiple nights coming up.
Yeah.
Especially in February and March. But whatever anyone agrees to, and we could, I'm not sure if we should put two on, and I don't have to be the one on it. But I don't know where we can put two, because that would be a
Yeah.
quorum for us. So it might be one selectman of any of the three, I don't really care. And two Board of Finance and two Board of Ed, maybe, something like that. But by all means, if I'll take a volunteer if someone wants to be on it, if we form
I
it.
don't feel, I'm gonna be completely transparent and say that I don't feel like I have a good enough grasp to lend beneficial feedback
I mean,
to.
I don't mind doing it, I just don't want to always feel like I'm not letting you guys do
Yeah,
it.
no. Don't-
I don't want to have all the
Very
fun
sweet,
myself.
Very nice of you. I just don't, listen, I'm completely okay with being out of the house more nights a week. That's not the issue. I just don't know if I would be the right person to have
Okay.
enough feedback.
And I understand that. And we are kind of where I was, when I was a selectman too before, and I sat through multiple of these. So, and I had the opportunity to do it through the Board of Ed too when I was there. So obviously, and I think Brett has a lot of background, but Brett, if you decide you want to do it, you're more than welcome to. If you think you'd rather have me do it, that doesn't matter either way.
I don't want to take anything away from you that you'd like to do.
I
I
can,
mean,
sh-
I
I'm,
do
I
have
can
background
share.
from being on Board of Finance in this, but
And Edie's.
part of it, there's a benefit of you, because you see what else is going on in town and you understand the finances of the day to day, which
I see what's happening here.
helps.
Hey, at least I was willing to share. So,
I know.
okay, can we table this for tonight then?
Yeah, because I do
Yes.
think with that task force, at that tri-board meeting, we said we were gonna try to figure out where that falls.
Well, I'm gonna do
budget
that.
season.
I'm gonna do that on the 23rd with
Okay.
Mike and Steph. So
Okay.
yes, maybe we can get that answer for you sooner instead of later. And that's the one you're concerned about, right? The school one, more so than any other?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
All right,
I
so
just don't want us to be in another tri-board meeting in June, having the same conversation.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
Everybody.
And I said that at the travel, like, well, we're making progress. No, we talked about this
Yeah.
3
2 years
tri-boards ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, all right, so if we can just table this for now,
Yeah.
we can race through the rest of this meeting.
So
I promise.
I just want to reiterate, we are moving forward right now with the 638,436.
Well, right,
Like
we
we
already
voted
did.
on
Yes.
for next
Yeah.
year's capital,
Yep.
okay?
And I'm just saying, if we get pushback, we could probably take 50,000 out.
Okay. And the proposal you're gonna put in front of the Board of Finance tomorrow night is gonna have the quint pushed out 4 years. And
Well, it's not a
No?
proposal, I'm gonna say it was suggested tonight that why would I have that already bonded when we're not gonna get it for 4 years? So start that bonding later, and I'll try to do a page on that if I
Okay.
can.
Okay,
Hmm,
all right.
Okay. How about tax refunds?
Go Brett.
There's only two.
Hold on, where did I put my pack?
I can do it.
I got it right.
Got it?
Okay, make a motion to approve tax refunds in the amount totaling $2,250 to Capital Real Estate Tax and Stanley Toronto.
A second.
Now, I see those are both elderly, that means our thing's working. Remember the elderly tax deferment thing we did last year? I think that's what these both fall under, where they're getting rebates because they overpaid and they actually qualified. Is that what your
Yeah.
understanding is on these? It says elderly on both of them. I'm assuming that's what that is.
I would assume.
Yeah,
Why is that name underneath, the Capital Real Estate?
It could be somebody else. Is that what you're talking about?
or what it could be is if there's a mortgage on it, the banks pay your
Oh, it could
taxes,
be.
so it could be going back to the bank, which then would have to
Gotcha.
refund it. That's, I'm just
But
assuming that.
maybe the last name there is
Right.
the person who, okay,
Could be.
gotcha.
So yeah, so if you look on the request for refund, it just says refunded excess payments. It doesn't, on that sheet,
Yeah.
it doesn't say.
But you're right, that's the
Oh, and
first
that
time
is
I've
right, that
seen-
is the right name. If you look
Oh,
on
okay.
the,
That is
request
the,
for abatement. Yep.
it's the first time that I've noticed elderly in parentheses after. All right,
Okay, so
I
we had a
seconded.
motion.
Yep,
Seconded,
I
Nicole,
did.
okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Aye. Okay, old business. So this is gonna start dropping off quickly after the town meeting, because hopefully we'll get the approval to pay Best Tech and that'll be done. ARPA funds will be pretty much done at that point. So I just want to talk about vacancies and appointments, one quick thing. I got 3 resumes so far for, admin finance officer.
Oh,
One is.
different people than the first
Yes,
go
yep.
round.
One, I'm not gonna consider, just for, I won't say publicly, just to make sense. 2 of them, I think are maybe worthy of at least a chat to see. I think, I don't mind having like a short conversation with someone, say, tell me why you're interested and let me get a feel for this before we bring in the board of 5 of us to actually do the
Oh,
interview.
yeah, absolutely.
Why waste our time? Why waste their time? I did speak to a candidate that was referred to us by somebody that works at town hall.
Somebody
Ama-
that had not already applied?
Not applied, yeah.
Okay,
Amazing candidate. She already has a good job somewhere else, and she actually did this as a favor to this, one of our employees at town hall to say, yes, I'll go and I'll talk to Bob about it, see if it makes sense. I'd love to have her come on board. I can't imagine why she would, but if she does, I mean, maybe she's at a time of her life that she'd like to slow down a bit. I mean, I think it would probably be a cut in revenue and pay but there's things in town that you don't get other places. It's a different type of environment. Maybe it's not as corporate feeling, maybe not as crazy, helter-skelter, demanding. It's a demanding job, don't get me wrong, but I did an hour-and-a-half sales job on this person, and I'm not so convinced that they're coming on board, but if she did say she'd like to hear more, I'd be tickled pink, because she could step into my own and do the job in a wonderful way.
all right.
Now, good news is, if for some reason why she decided not to come on board, the same individual at town hall knows 2 other people that she also thinks could possibly interview for this job. So when they're coming in recommended and they have municipal experience,
Makes me
they
feel
go to
better.
the top of the list, right? And then the 2 resumes I have that aren't bad resumes, and if I had none of this other stuff going on, I'd probably at least chat with them, see what's going on. I still might. But when someone's recommended to me and they say, I know this person can do the job, or I have a good feeling that I know what this job is and this person can handle it, that weighs a lot on me. So, but well, at least we have candidates that make sense. And I think the administration part's going to be a big part. I was listening to the 2 Susans talking, the new Susan and the Susan, about that job, and administration's a big thing. And because you're basically a town man, you're running town hall in a way, so, and it is a lot to that. I mean, I'm doing that now, and it's a lot of nitty gritty to, like, going through time clock plus and hours and overtime and time paid off. And And then approving it, I'll give it to Susan so she can cut checks and it's, and that's a part of it. And plus there's the HR part
Yeah.
and it's,
No, we
ev-
definitely need to get
so I
somebody.
think it's, I think we're in better shape now than we were before on
Okay.
that.
Bob, do you mind forwarding us those resumes? Like
No,
you
not,
did
at-
before?
yeah, not at all. I'll be glad to. They're on Indeed. I'll send you all three of them. I think I had three.
Alright.
All right.
you.
Let me make a note.
So
to
do you want to, you're going to wait to hear whether this one, and then this potential of one or two others actually apply before
So
putting any interviews together?
not so much. So I think what I'm gonna do is the one on Friday, I said to her, please get back to me shortly, either yes or no, just so I know if I have to move on or not. You know, I expect to hear from her maybe tomorrow or the next day.
Okay.
At that point, I wouldn't mind calling the two candidates of the three resumes I have that I think have some potential and just have a quick chat on the phone with them and say,
Okay,
do you know what this job entails? And are you sure you know what you're doing? Like I did that with a few people and they decided not to take a job. I did that with IT with a couple of people. Both times it was distance, the drive-in and how much they had to be at town hall. So it just kind of vets them out. And then I was prepared to, even with this woman, I'm not hiring her, even though I think she's aces. I would convene the interview group of
Okay.
the three of us and Sean and Michael Anderson and still do the interview. I'm not gonna hire someone. I think it was different with Susan Collin because she came with so much.
oh my God, yeah.
So I think that, but in this case, I think it's admin finance director is different. I think the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance chair and the town treasurer should have a hand in it. So we'll go through that
Okay.
process.
Yeah, especially because that person is our only real direct, as a Board of Selectmen, our only direct hire, the three of us.
Yeah, I'm just trying to vet it out, so we're not wasting anybody's time,
Yep.
that's all.
Very good.
Planning conservation development, we can skip, ARP, opera, rather, we can skip, demo, we know about that. So that brings us to public comments. Is there any public comment by anybody online or in the audience tonight? Please raise your hand if you're online, you want to say something. Could be about agenda item, non-agenda item,
See any?
the weather, anything, okay. Alrighty, our next meeting is February 6th. I think other than tomorrow night's Board of Finance meeting, are we done with meetings now for the month of January? Is tomorrow night our last meeting?
We are.
I mean, Board of Finance too, we're like, oh, so your last
Oh.
meeting of the month tomorrow night? I think it is, I think,
It is.
so I think after tomorrow night, we're done with.
We have our town meeting on the 22nd, let's not forget.
Oh, yeah, but that's fine. That's only a 2-item meeting. That should be pretty good. We're gonna put signs out tomorrow, I think.
So yeah, there's Board of Finance. And then tomorrow, our town meeting on the 22nd, Board of Ed on the 24th, WPCA on the 25th is what I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next meeting is Board of Selectmen meeting is February 6th. And I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
I second.
Okay, Brett's motion, Cole second, the time is 7:50. Thank you very much. I'll put the resumes tomorrow, Brett.